I know this video is going to stir up some controversy, but someone needs to talk about the woman the dating market pretends not to see. The one who's over 30, has her life together, is independent, attractive, and yet still alone. And the reason isn't a lack of men, it's a lack of self-awareness. What I'm about to say isn't an attack, it's reality. We live in a generation where many women were sold the illusion that they could have everything, all the time. They were taught to wait for the perfect man, strong yet sensitive, rich yet humble, loyal, attractive, emotionally available, and preferably in therapy. But as time went on, they discovered that this man simply doesn't exist. Meanwhile, men have changed. They've grown tired of constantly having to prove their worth to women who only look up, never sideways. Men of value don't chase validation. They build. And when they look around and don't see reciprocity, they simply move on. And this is the invisible wound no one wants to touch. Many of these women have become so selective that they've lost sight of what truly matters. They've traded love for resumes, connection for status, and now, with their financial lives in order, they're facing the emotional emptiness that success can't fill. But hold on, because the blame isn't solely on them. There's an entire social narrative pushing women toward this abyss. A narrative that glorifies independence but forgets to teach emotional humility. And that's what we need to talk about before it's too late. Now that you understand the setup, in the next part, I'll show you the most common mistake these women make, the invisible behavior that pushes away exactly the kind of men they claim to want. The common mistake of independent women. Most of these women believe they're single because men are intimidated by them. But the truth is very different. It's not fear, it's disinterest. Men don't pull away because she's strong, but because she leaves no space to be chosen. She's become emotionally inaccessible and mistakes that for value. Almost all of them followed the same script. They spent their 20s focused on career, travel, and accomplishments, which is great. But while collecting achievements, they forgot how to connect. Now they talk about love like they're reviewing a contract. And love doesn't bloom on a spreadsheet. Many think they're keeping their standards high, when in reality, they're building walls. They reject good men because they're not on the same level, but forget that the level that truly matters isn't financial, it's emotional. Men of value don't look for a pedestal, they look for partnership. And here's the blind spot. They say they want a mature, confident, decisive man, but when they meet one, they compete with him. The relationship turns into a power struggle, and the man, exhausted, walks away. After all, who wants to live in a battlefield when they could have peace at home? Another common mistake, believing time is infinite. Many act as if they're still 22, assuming there will always be options, attention, invitations. But time takes its toll, not just on appearance, but on energy. That lightness, that spark of someone who still believes in love, slowly fades. Meanwhile, on social media, they post quotes about never settling for less. But in real life, they sleep alone, full of pride but empty inside. The louder the ego speaks, the quieter the heart becomes. What began as self-respect has turned into armor. And the armor has turned into loneliness. The worst part is, the empowerment narrative convinces them that men are the problem. But when every man seems wrong, maybe the filter is broken. Because men of value still exist. They just don't chase women who constantly need to prove superiority. A man doesn't want competition, he wants admiration. Now that you understand the mistake, in the next part, we'll talk about the real consequences of this mindset, the emotional and social price these women pay for believing in an illusion, the invisible price of the woman who doesn't settle for less. The problem is, time always collects its debt, and the interest is high. At 25, being selective feels like confidence, At 35, it starts looking like loneliness dressed up as standards. That feeling of, I can choose whoever I want, slowly fades. The glances aren't as frequent, the invitations fewer, and the options smaller. And before she knows it, she's caught in a strange cycle. The more time passes, the pickier she becomes, because accepting less now would feel like admitting she was wrong before. This is the silent pain of many successful women. They have everything, except what matters most. Professional success became the consolation prize for a closed heart. And behind the trips, the dinners, and the smiling photos lies a quiet exhaustion no one sees. They look at other women's relationships with a mix of envy and disbelief. They wonder, how did she find a man like that? But the answer is simple. The other woman wasn't searching for perfection. She was searching for connection. While one wanted the ideal man, the other wanted a real man. Time, once an ally, becomes a mirror, and the mirror doesn't lie. Each birthday stings a little more, not because of age, but because of awareness. The awareness that choices have consequences, and the silence of the bedroom at night is louder than any empowerment speech during the day. Some start blaming men. They say, men are trash, men are scared, this generation is weak. But the truth is, men just got tired of trying to enter a heart that came with a rejection manual. The problem was never the lack of men, it was the lack of openness. And the worst part is, the longer time passes, the stronger the pride grows. The woman who was once soft is now skeptical. The one who once believed in love now believes only in control. And that's the cruelest punishment, turning the fear of getting hurt into the inability to love. As Freud said, to deny love for fear of pain is to ensure suffering through its absence. And that's exactly what happens. The pain doesn't come from being rejected by men. It comes from disconnecting from herself, because deep down, she still wants to be loved, but no longer knows how to allow it. Now that you understand the consequences, in the next part, I'll show you where this illusion comes from. The lie that society and modern narratives sold to these women, and why so many of them think they're free, when in reality, they're trapped in an invisible script. The illusion sold to the modern woman. For decades, women were sold the idea that you don't need anyone, that professional success could replace love, that vulnerability is weakness and emotional connection is regression. And they believed it. Media, movies, and even misinterpreted feminism all pushed the same script. Focus on yourself, travel, work, conquer. The right man will come later. But later arrived, and he didn't come. Because while women empowered themselves externally, they quietly disconnected from their feminine essence internally. The system turned love into a trophy. It taught that men are prizes, and only those who win at life deserve a man on their level. But in this game of status, they forgot something crucial. Love doesn't measure resumes, it measures reciprocity. Men don't fall in love with titles, they fall in love with calm, softness, and genuine feminine energy. And to make things worse, the empowerment gurus appeared, preaching that men are the problem, that none are worth it, and that being alone is better. That phrase became a mantra, but also a prison, because independence without connection is just loneliness with Wi-Fi. The industry profits massively from this. It sells clothes, trips, aesthetics, coaching programs, and instant confidence fixes. But it never sells what's truly missing: warmth and truth. Because if these women healed their emotional wounds, the consumption would stop. The real issue is that no one taught them how to balance strength and surrender. They learned how to compete, but not how to connect. How to lead, but not how to trust. And the result is a generation of brilliant women, but exhausted ones. We're not talking about all women, but about a growing number who confuse self-sufficiency with self-sabotage. And the harder they try to prove their worth, the more they push away the kind of man who could truly complement them. Because a healthy masculine man doesn't want to compete, he wants to build together. And the cruelest part, the system still blames men for it. It says they're just afraid of strong women, when in reality, men don't fear strength. They avoid conflict disguised as love. That's why so many would rather choose peace than constant tension. Now that you understand the illusion shaping this behavior, in the next part, I'll show you the out-of-the-box solution. What truly makes a high-value woman loved, admired, and chosen by men of value. The out-of-the-box solution. How a woman of value becomes loved again. What truly works isn't becoming less strong. It's being strong and wise. It's not about giving up independence, but balancing strength with softness. A woman of value doesn't need to compete with a man. She understands that her true power lies in inspiring, not controlling. Step 1. Recognize your pride. As long as pride speaks louder than the heart, love will keep knocking on the wrong door. A woman who wants to be loved must disarm her ego, not to submit, but to allow, because love only enters where there's room for reciprocity. Step 2. Heal your relationship with the masculine. Many women don't even realize it, but they carry hidden resentment or distrust toward men. It shows up in their tone, their energy, their body language. Healing begins when she understands that not every man will repeat the pain of her past. There are men of value, but they're drawn to peace, not resistance. Step 3. Stop looking for the perfect man and start choosing the real one. Perfection is an illusion. Possibility is real. The real man makes mistakes, learns, grows, and wants to build. When a woman understands that, she trades expectation for discernment. Discernment means knowing how to tell immaturity from imperfection. Step 4. Reclaim your true femininity. Femininity isn't weakness. It's soft power. It's the kind of strength that attracts, not pressures. A woman who reconnects with her femininity regains magnetism, lightness, and presence. She doesn't need to ask for attention. She naturally inspires desire and respect. Step 5. Redefine success. Because success without sharing is empty. True fulfillment isn't winning alone. It's having someone who roots for you and builds with you. That doesn't make you smaller. It makes you greater. A healthy we multiplies what the I has already achieved. Step 6. Value the right man. Many women lose great men because they expect fireworks when real love shows up as consistency. The man who truly loves you doesn't impress you, he calms you. And when a woman learns to recognize that calm, she finally breaks the cycle of loneliness. Step 7. Relearn admiration. Admiration is the oxygen of love. A man can handle mistakes, jealousy, even pride, but no man can thrive with a woman who sees him as lesser. When a woman admires, she awakens the best in him and love flourishes. Here's the out-of-the-box secret. The woman who inspires is far more powerful than the woman who demands, because a man doesn't follow the one who challenges him. He follows the one who inspires him to rise. The mature feminine understands this and uses that wisdom to create, not compete. Want to change the game? Stop looking for the perfect man and start becoming the woman who brings out the best in a real one. That's elevated femininity, awareness, grace, boundaries, and purpose. That's where love prospers and life blooms again. Now that you understand the solution, in the next part, I'll show you the transformation, how this woman is reborn when she lets go of control, heals her pride, and learns to love again with softness and truth. The rebirth of the woman of value. When this woman finally lets go of control, everything shifts. She stops competing with the masculine and starts dancing with it again. She no longer tries to prove she's strong, she simply is. And her strength no longer pushes people away, it draws them in. Lightness returns to her eyes. Her smile is no longer armor, it's presence. She rediscovers the pleasure of being cared for, admired, desired, without guilt, and the most beautiful realization that vulnerability is the highest form of power. The man of value who once kept his distance now comes closer, because the energy has changed. He feels peace, he feels space, he feels truth. And he understands this is a woman who knows her worth and doesn't have to shrink it to love. Life starts flowing differently. She no longer waits for someone to save her, but she also no longer feels the need to always defend herself. She learns to yield without losing herself, and that brings back the harmony that success alone could never provide. Loneliness gives way to connection. Laughter returns to conversations, desire returns to the gaze, and love becomes possible again. The fear of time fades, because now time works for her. The woman who was once tense is now magnetic. She understands that beauty isn't just aesthetics, it's energy. That youth isn't an age, it's lightness, and that maturity isn't arrogance, it's serenity. This is the new woman. The one who captivates effortlessly because she lives in truth. Men start approaching again, but now she chooses differently. She no longer chooses the most handsome, the richest, or the loudest. She chooses the one who brings peace, purpose, and direction. And for the first time, she feels whole, not hungry. This woman hasn't become submissive, she's become wise. She hasn't lost her power, she's gained depth. And this is the woman the world needs to see more of, the one who adds, not competes, who inspires, not demands, who loves, yet remains whole. Now that you've seen this transformation, the next part will bring the final summary and call to action. To wrap up this message and invite everyone watching to reflect, comment, and engage with awareness. The truth no one wants to say now. You understand what almost no one has the courage to admit. That many incredible women ended up alone, not because of a lack of options, but because of a lack of self-perception. They believed in the illusion of absolute independence and forgot that love can't be negotiated with a resume. Because in the end, what every human being truly wants is real connection. You've seen how it all begins subtly. A little demand here, a quiet rejection there, a pattern of impossible standards repeated for years, until time passes and what once was a choice turns into loneliness, not because men disappeared, but because the heart closed itself off. But you've also seen that there's hope. Because when a woman understands the game, she can change the board. She can heal her pride, balance her energy, and experience real love without losing herself and without hiding behind emotional armor. This isn't a criticism, it's an invitation, a call to awareness, to look inward with honesty, because there's still time. But time only favors those who wake up before it collects. If this video made you reflect, comment awareness below. And if you're a man who understood this message, share it. Show that there are still men and women willing to grow together, because true love isn't war, it's construction. And follow me, because the conversation here is different. This is the movement for those who think beyond the bubble, for those brave enough to hear what the system hides. This channel isn't about hate, it's about truth, maturity, and balance. Because in the end, the world doesn't need more gender wars. It needs men and women of value.